Let
Oh,
me see if I could view on my phone too from my
okay.
other
All right.
account.
So look, I'm gonna take us off and start the music, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we'll jump in. What up? What up? What up, everybody? What up, world?
Yo, yo,
Welcome,
yo, yo.
welcome, welcome to another episode 25 of the Fanatic Sports Podcast. Shout out to everybody checking us out. This is a big day. This is a big day because I got my man Ben Rodriguez with me of the NFL Playmakers.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Shout out.
sir.
Shout out to you, Benji, man. Look, so I've been watching you and all your crew working, man. You, Adam, the guys that there's a ton of y'all that are putting in a ton of content, man.
Yeah,
So
man.
before we get started, first of all, thank you for joining my podcast.
Nah, man. Thank you
and
for
then
having me.
and then secondly, man, kudos to y'all, man. Keep up the good work, dude. Like this is a tough gig for anybody that doesn't know or doesn't keep up with what happens, how you create content, especially sports content like this, man. To watch y'all work is
Yeah.
outstanding. So super excited to have you on.
Yeah, no, man. I appreciate all those words, and I mean, like you mentioned before, it's definitely like a grind. Like it's, like you said, it's not that it's not for everybody, but you really have to put in the work. And obviously, shout out Adam. Deuce just hit 1500. Shout out Deuce. Michael. Of course Noah. So shout out all of those guys in the Inside the Locker Room podcast. It's just funny because we just met mutually, and it's just like, yo, you want to start a podcast? And it's just like. But like, after the first episode, like and it was terrible too. It was funny because, like, you get better as you go. But that first episode, you're thinking like, man, like what's going to happen after this? Like, it's going to be a long like road ahead. But, like I said, it's the grind. You gotta put in the work. And that's what me and my team have been doing. So, I thank those guys again. And I wouldn't be here without those guys. And we have some super exciting things planned. So, stay tuned to the Inside the Locker Room podcast. And I thank you again for having me on here, man.
Well, look, man, I've been following for a little while anyways. But like I'm excited to see you guys' growth further. And like I told you in the DM, the first thing I told you, I was like, hey, take that future out, man. You are a journalist right now.
Yeah, no, man. I appreciate that. And I did that as soon as you said that, because I was like, you know what, he's right. Because, I'm really, I'm putting in the work, So I mean, I'm not like, I'm not really like these other, because, when I started this whole page, the whole point of it was not to like, be the fastest news break content, because there's already accounts for that, so I wanted to take a different approach. Oh, good. No, go good. Now, yeah, but like I wanted to take a different approach at all this, so that's why I'm not focused on getting the fastest news break out, because sometimes like what we saw today with Dak Prescott, it's like you just have to stay patient and just wait until stuff happens.
Yeah, definitely, bro, definitely. So look, man, tell you what, let's take a quick break, man, and right back here on the Fanatic Sport Podcast here with Benji Rodriguez of the NFL Playmakers. We'll be right back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Here with Benji Rodriguez of the
Yo,
NFL Playmakers. Super excited to have you with us today, bro. So
thank
let's
you,
jump
man.
into it. So we'll start with this is the Fanatic Sports Podcast. We always start with how you became a fanatic of your team. Now you got some
Yeah,
interesting
man. I
interesting
got a little
teams.
crisis going on here, man. And now the reason, like, obviously the reason why I say that is because the Red Sox and the Jets are like total opposite ends of the spectrum. So before I go into anything, I'm gonna say how it became, how like this even happened, and then I'm gonna get into my kind of rebuttal here and kind of just
Okay.
kind of my little wild card into this because I think there's another comparison that's exactly the same, and
Okay.
you'll probably guess it. But anyways, the way I became a Red Sox and a Jets fans, it's a pretty boring way, but I was just born into it. I have a 30-year-old brother. Shout out to my brother Josh. But yeah, nah, like I just grew up liking the teams he liked because that was
Yeah.
just my big bro. So,
Okay.
so yeah. So why he picked the Red Sox and the Jets, I'm not sure. I know he was a Jets fan because he was watching Chad Pennington when he was younger in a hospital bed, and they won the game
Wow.
while he was in the hospital. So pretty sure that's
Yeah.
how he became a Jets fan. Um,
Okay.
not sure if it was Chad Pennington specifically, but I know that hospital thing. But anyways, but yeah, nah, I've been to Fenway multiple times.
Wow.
Unfortunately, visit MetLife yearly because I am based in Jersey. So yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, but they need to move out of MetLife in my opinion. But
Really.
that's a whole different thing. I mean,
Let me jump in here because I am a Clippers fan, and
mhm,
so I we everybody. So one of my co-hosts, shout out Blue, he's a Lakers fan, and so that, of course
mhm,
everybody calls us little brothers.
mhm.
And so we just moved out and into the Intuit Dome this year.
Yeah.
What is that kind of why? That is it kind of that same thing you're thinking of the idea of let's step away, completely separate
I
from the
think
Giants.
Yeah, I think it's just time to just go back to the just previous MetLife era Jets. Like, obviously, I wasn't alive for that time period, but from what
Okay.
I can see, like Shea Stadium was just legendary, you know.
Yeah.
So, and when they were in Staten Island, I believe too. So, like, um, you know, so I just
And
think, and plus, it's like you call them the New York Jets, so they should be based in New York.
in New York, yeah, and New York's like
And yeah,
massive as far as like
yeah,
the space and
and
different places.
yeah, and
Uh,
it works out perfectly for me because I'm in Jersey, so it's right there. But yeah, even if it was in New York, it wouldn't be that much of a hassle because from me to MSG is like piece of cake,
right,
So
that's right, yeah.
yeah.
So I visited New York City for the first time. I'm based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Deuce,
so
Deuce is from Louisiana,
yeah.
and Michael too. So shout out those
Okay.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, the South. One of the things that's interesting to me is like New York is an awesome sports city,
Yeah,
but
man.
it's different in the way the sports that they love, and then also the way that they approach sports. Because it's big city living, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But it really was cool. But the most interesting thing was I was there to visit some of my church friends
Mm-hmm.
in Newark, and
Uh-huh.
then
Yeah.
from Newark to Manhattan, where I was staying to visit New York City, it was like 9 miles. I was not aware
Yeah.
that it was that close in
Yeah, it's literally
proximity.
you take a train there. Yeah. It's right there. That's
But
one stop away.
what was really shocking was it took me like I, I left my hotel by the Newark airport at 4
Mm-hmm.
p.m. and I got to my hotel in Manhattan at 9 p.m.
Mm. Dang.
but
Yo.
that was the day that the Jets played the Giants, and
Oh,
so
okay, okay. Oh, so
it
that's a
was
Snoopy Bowl. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, uh,
Snoopy
that's what
Bowl.
they call it, man. The Snoopy Bowl, because that's the MetLife mascot. Or I don't know if it still is
Yeah,
actually, but
I think
yeah,
so. Yeah,
I don't know if
um,
it still is, but I know the peanuts used to be in those commercials, but
that's
yeah,
fantastic. I
but
love
yeah,
that,
nah.
man. I love that. So then tell me about the Red Sox a little
Yeah,
bit.
man. So my introduction to the Red Sox. Now, when I was okay, let me first get into this actually, because
Okay.
this is actually a big moment in my kind of sports life too. Now,
Yeah.
and I know you remember this game too. The thing that got me into sports as a whole, I think, I used to have a Nintendo Wii when I was pretty young.
Okay.
The game that got me into sports, man, was NBA Jam.
Yep.
That game was my game, yo. And guess who I would run, yo? Guess who I would run?
With whom?
Russ and KD, bro.
Wow.
Like those were like, yeah, man. And that's what started my sports jersey. So I like, at first I wouldn't call myself a Oklahoma City Thunder fan, but
Sure.
I loved Russ and KD. Like those were my two guys. So, once KD left, and it was just Warriors, Cavs for like 5 years straight, I was just like,
Yeah.
man, like poor Russ.
Yeah.
But Russ is probably like my favorite NBA player when it comes to like childhood
Okay.
meaning. I mean, Katie too, but
Yeah.
that July 4th, man, that was just
What an amazing,
yeah, man.
time. So I was it's crazy. So just kind of the different perspectives of generations of sports. So I turned 40. I just turned 40, and
Yeah,
so for me, like when I was watching, which so Russ and KD
mhm,
were LeBron's first victims as champions,
yeah,
and so you think about that team, how that team was put together, what they did. It was really, really impressive to see that run and to think about what those players have turned into and what they've become, and
yeah.
wonder
No,
keep them all together. So I don't think we get all those. We don't get as many MVPs if they stay together. But I
hmm
wonder how many rings they have.
yeah, man. And like, I mean, whenever I speak on like a show or anything, I kind of always speak as like anybody's listening. So like,
Yeah,
that's not to discredit KD at all, because we know he did great things on the Warriors. Like,
yeah,
I love Draymond. Like, I literally have Draymond on my fantasy team as we speak. Like, I love Donkey, yo. So, like,
yeah.
so yeah, man. And
So
but going back to the Red Sox here real quick. But yeah, that's kind
okay.
of like my introduction into sports as a whole. That was like my first sports game. Then I got into Madden, and then. But going back to the Red Sox here, I would say like the first couple, like what really really got me into Red Sox was, man, that 2013 World Series, man. That that
So special.
that that like that year, man. And it was like the first year I pretty much started watching baseball too.
Okay.
So, and it was the first year I went to Fenway. So that was just so special to me, as a younger guy. But and also the fact that, Ortiz hit a dinger when I was there too. So, and
That'll do it.
yeah, and I think a big part of like why I'm a Jets Red Sox fan as well is because not even just because of it's a Red Sox Jets thing, but you know, um obviously there's Puerto Rican representation in the MLB, but
Hmm.
there are just a lot of Dominicans as well. But you got the Poppies of the world, the Manny Ramirez's, the Raffy Dev. Like, bro, Raffy Devers is my favorite player right now. So
Yeah,
shout out
yeah.
Raffy Devers. He flipped me a ball at
Oh,
Yankee
that's dope.
Stadium too last
That's
a
so
couple
dope.
summers ago. Because I was the only Red Sox fan in the section.
Well, I
I,
bet.
I call I call for Raffy in Spanish. I was like, "Yo, dale, dale, Raffy,"
That's
and he
fantastic.
just threw it towards me, yo. And it,
So,
it was
so,
funny too, because the Yankees fans next to me, they tried taking the ball. They were like, "Yo, can we see that?" I was like, "No, you cannot see this ball, bro."
oh wow, oh
But
wow. I heard it gets a little dicey, especially
yeah,
when you're on the away team. So I'm from Arkansas originally, as
mhm.
my flag will show.
Okay, nice.
But I moved down here, and so Arkansas has a little bit of a rivalry with Louisiana, and
Hmm.
so, but in general, so like with my teams, I'm a Steelers fan, I'm a I'm a Royals fan, I'm a Clippers
Hmm.
fan. I don't have
Okay.
a hockey team yet. Do you get into hockey? Have you done hockey yet?
Yo, so speaking about hockey, interestingly enough, I went to my first NHL game about like a month, actually in January. That's when it was.
Okay,
I went to a
okay.
Rangers Hurricanes game, and the Rangers lost, right? But it was
Mm.
kind of funny because when I was at the game, I kind of saw some similarities in the Rangers play and the Jets play, because what I got from the Rangers game when I got there was that they were just not, um, capitalizing on so many opportunities. And what do the
Wow.
Jets do? They don't capitalize on so many opportunities. So I kind of felt like it was a match made in heaven. My old coworker from my old mechanic shop, he's a Rangers fan. So shout out Craig. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I wouldn't say like I'm a Rangers fanatic, but
Sure.
I follow them a little bit. I got a Rangers
That,
beanie.
that's how this fan thing starts. And so
Yeah.
just to kind of put a bow on this, and so this is where I came from with the name Fanatic Sports, just because fan is short for fanatic, and fanatic is similar to being crazy. And
Yeah.
so it's a blast to kind of see how things connect us and how things kind of pull us apart, but it's all in still good
Exactly.
fun.
Yeah, no.
So
I was about to mention that too. Like, as like a journalist, it's definitely hard as well, because it's like, you grow up obviously loving the sports. That's what makes you interested in sports journalism. For most people, but it's hard to kind of stray away from what you really really feel deep down inside. But it's
right.
like I said before, you have to act like everyone's watching. So, and that's why I've been just uplifting on our podcast and just being as positive as I can. And, like I
Yeah,
said, watching what we say. So,
yeah.
but,
So, and you'd be surprised the eyes that see things, not just. And so that's one of the things that I'm learning with putting together a podcast.
yeah,
We're looking at our eyes, and shout out to all the folks that are checking you out, man. Nathan, I see
yeah,
Adam's
bro.
in the
Shout out to
comments, man.
Nathan. Shout out Adam, bro. Thank you guys for tuning in. Love you
Yeah,
guys.
definitely, man. Definitely happy looking forward to working with y'all as well. But
Yeah,
like
man.
one of the things I see is the eyes on the screen, and I've been having to practice going back over to Instagram so
Yeah.
people can see us there, and then also like being able to you realize a lot of this stuff comes back on residual as well. So like the replays, all of that stuff. Again, the work with podcasting is a lot. And
Yeah.
so,
A lot goes into it.
but
Yeah.
it's a joy to do it, but it's a job for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely a grind.
So I definitely enjoy it. But look, man, one of the things I'll tell you a story, and we'll kind of move on to some of the football happenings that I'm. This is my favorite time of the year. Often.
For sure. Me too, man.
But so during the year, I've been to a lot of games, and so this year in particular, because this is the first year that I've been posting on Instagram with my podcast for like maybe 4 or 5 years. But this is the first year where I really dug in and decided, hey, we're going to do podcasting and we're going to create content, things like that. And so the cool thing has been watching games this year as the journalist. So, I've always watched as a fan for years and years and years. But to actually watch as a journalist, looking at the concept of, hey, how can I tell this story? And it is interesting to see some of the angles. I just sent some content over to the groups that I work with about. It's an interesting little tie-in, but we'll get into it. So it's Asante Samuel. I guess this is Asante Samuel Sr. And he is talking about he's comparing himself to Dion.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Asante was a lockdown guy, right? Without question. But I don't think we ever held him in that same esteem as we did Dion, right? Dion was one of the best that literally ever laced him up at the corner position. And so Asante was really, really good. You could argue for great, but the idea of him saying like, "Oh, I was better. I have a 5-year run that was better than Dion's whole career." He started pulling out numbers, and the stories are interesting, and there's a narrative on this thing. But to watch how he twisted and he takes the points he takes the points, and the you can go off of the stats, you can go off of the reputation. There's a lot of different, things you can do with it. And so it was interesting to watch him talk, and he's calling out Shannon Sharp, and he's talking real spicy. He's talking real spicy. So I enjoyed watching it just because I love to see everyone's angle on it, and that's to bring it all back in. That's my favorite thing about sports, and especially watching it as a journalist. Because, like you said, you can tell a story how you want. You can shape the story how you want and turn it to say what you want it to say. And so Your words have lots of power. That's a life lesson I'm
Exactly.
learning now, right? So getting into that, man, it's really, really cool to watch this year or this past year how I watched all my favorite sports, whether it was
Yeah.
watching it with my favorite team or giving me interest, past my favorite team. Watching it as a journalist has been really, really cool. So it's a blessing to get to do that, man.
Yeah, nah, I feel like I feel like that's just the beauty of sports, right? There's just so many different ways to enjoy it. You can either play fantasy football, you can watch football, you could either watch a red zone, or you could just watch your favorite team, or you can
Right.
just and the best time of year is almost upon us with all all these sports going on at the same time. Football. I'm not football, excuse me.
Yes.
Baseball, basketball, hockey a little bit. So but. Yeah, like it just thank you, Nathan. You keep up the great work too, bro.
Yeah.
Shout out, Nathan, man.
So man, look, so let's jump into it, man. This is the thing this is how we got on, man, is to talk a little bit about, and like I said, this is my favorite time of year. I love the off season. Even in video games, when I play video games, I love to build teams. I suck at Madden. I am terrible at Madden, but I love to put together great teams.
Of course, an ultimate team, yes.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that, because sometimes it's just so annoying to play online because you just got these sweats sometimes. Like sometimes you just get those nights where you just get like 10 games in a row where it's just like every single one of their cards is like a 99, and it's just like, what? Like, this is pay to win.
And then the worst part was, so last night I was running with so I got a few guys that I play video games with all the time.
Yeah.
We play Call of Duty, things like that. And so we were like, hey, let's jump back on NCAA. We haven't been on NCAA in like, I think since before the actual national championship. It's been a minute. And so we get on, and there's like, we got like our little 87s and 89s, and then there's these guys got like 95s, 96s, and they got 4. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
The video game thing is not for me, but I do love to put together games, or like I'll join franchises.
I was about to say, there's not even just Ultimate Team. There's franchise. So a funny story about franchise, and I feel like another important part of my fandom too, that I honestly have to mention, that it was honestly a big moment for me. And I'll take down this Sauce jersey real quick, and it's a little sour now, but I got this Aaron Rodgers jersey, right? So. Yes, I know. But let me tell the story real quick. So, and it's just, and it leads to this Fields thing too. Yeah. And it's funny because it connects to it. Yeah. So, what are the Jets always dealing with, right? We don't have a quarterback, right? We have a great defense, stellar defense, but our offense is lackluster. That's always been the story of the Jets, right? Yeah. Historically, just as a franchise, right? So, growing up as a fan of the Jets, I believe I started watching, actually paying attention, right? Because, keep in mind, I'm 20 years old. So, I haven't been watching football for 30 years. I wish I have, and I will. But, I'm a younger guy. But anyways, I believe I started, actually paying attention during Geno Smith's rookie year. And, it sucks because the year right before that, they made the playoffs. So I literally joined the fandom at the very start of the roller coaster. But the reason why I bring up this Aaron Rodgers jersey right here is because, growing up as a younger Jets fan, always not having a quarterback, right? When we traded for Aaron Rodgers, that was just and I bring this up when you mentioned franchise too, because whenever I played Madden, I would always trade for Aaron Rodgers, always. And I will always put him on the Jets. So when we traded for that man, that was a surreal moment for me. And it was such a surreal moment for me. And it stinks how it ended, but I was at that home opener, when he went down.
Oh my God.
I saw Rodgers go down live,
Oh my God.
Bro. You could hear a pin drop in that stadium, bro. You could hear a pin drop. I'm gonna send you videos later, bro. But bro, it was such a devastating moment, and we did win the game, and nobody likes the Bills, but that when we traded for him, it was just a real moment. And the reason why I got this jersey specifically is because I don't know if you remember, but when the Jets played the Patriots on Thursday Night Football, I believe they wore the retro jerseys that I watched them grow up. What that I watched them, the
Yeah.
jerseys I watched them grow up in, or that I
Yeah.
grew up watching them in.
Yeah.
He finally wore that jersey, and
That's
I
what's
was like,
up.
yo, what am I watching right now? Like, this is, and the fact then that, and you know, that game he balled out too, so that was even
Yeah.
specialer. And against the Patriots, I was like,
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
But then, you know, what do the Jets always do? They reel me back in. But you know, going back to this man right here,
Yeah.
Justin Fields.
Love that.
Going back to that man, I love the signing so much because, you know, like I mentioned previously, before Rodgers, you know, we still didn't have a quarterback, but you know, we drafted Zach Wilson. But and the reason why I love this Fields signing so much is because it was always Justin Fields for me, man. It was always Justin Fields for me, man. He was always Trevor Lawrence this, Trevor Lawrence that. It was always Justin Fields for me because you know why, man? I always keep mentioning this national championship against Trevor Lawrence, and even though Ohio State lost, I saw a warrior in Justin Fields, man. I don't know if you remember that game against Clemson, but he went up against somebody who didn't lose in his whole college career, and he put up a fight, yo.
Yeah.
And I've been watching Justin since he's been in high school, you know. So seeing that was special in the national championship, and the fact that he's on my team now, that I never thought he would be our quarterback because you know he was picked so high, you know, in literally the same class that we took a quarterback in. It's just special, man.
So I'll tell you, and I wanted to ask you about Justin Fields. And I can tell you, as a Steelers fan, I felt like he's got so much potential. And I believe that if you get an offensive coordinator and your offensive coordinator kind of puts in that same work that they did like with the Lamar Jackson, that dude is Justin Fields is special, bro.
I'm saying, man, he at one point he led the whole league in rushing yards. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that's right.
Quarterback rushing yards, excuse me. But he was above Lamar at one point.
Yeah.
We can't forget that.
He's a playmaker, and you got the ability to if you can exploit his talents. And I'll admit this. So now one thing I tell my Steelers friends, so I'm in a bunch of like, you know, Steelers.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of Steelers fans as well, so I'm very tapped into the Steelers.
It's a lot of us, man. But
yeah.
I'll tell you, we're going kind of different ways. And you look at some of the questioning surrounding our team, and what our team needs is a quarterback, right? And we let a guy like Justin Fields walk, and I don't know how I feel about that yet.
And
from a fan's take, I just want to score points. The problem is that our offense looked like it labored all through the season.
Yeah,
that was with Justin. For a while, Russell looked pretty good, and then as the season went on, he looked like he was laboring as well. And there's a lot of factors to that, but at the end of the day, that's my biggest concern. So interestingly enough, so give me your take on all three, right? So we know Russell just signed with the Giants.
Yep.
Justin Fields signed with your Jets.
Yes,
and so the one quarterback that's kind of left that's linked to the Steelers is Rodgers, ironically. So it's been like this weird kind of triangle and swap. Talk a little bit about what the quarterback play for each one of these guys and what you expect from them going into the next season.
So, I mean, as you just mentioned, you know, you guys started off the season with Justin Fields. You know, you guys started off 4-2 with him, but then, you know, you bring back Russ. But, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, people forget that Russ was started off the season injured, and that's, you know, why that's why Justin was starting. But, I mean, I would have started Justin over Russell Wilson anyways, but but you know, like you said before, Rodgers, he's rumored to go to the Steelers. He met with y'all, and I believe he spent, you know, like 7 or 8 hours with all the coaches. I believe that was the report. So he definitely spent in a considerable amount of time with the Steelers. And like you said, it's kind of just like not the last resort, but it's kind of just it's aligned. But I will kind of throw another I would kind of throw another team into the mix here with Rodgers. I mean, could he really? I mean, it's funny because I have so many like jerseys for this, and I didn't even plan this. But could he really like? Could he really complete the trifecta? Could he really complete the trifecta? You know,
And get to the
So,
Vikings.
like, I think the Vikings is a possibility, but like they have JJ McCarthy, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's just like, and honestly, and I made this comparison the other day, and like I said, everybody's watching. This is no disrespect to everybody, but
Sure.
I would honestly compare KD to Aaron Rodgers at this point in both of their careers,
Interesting. Okay.
because think
Okay.
about it, they're both great players. There's no
Mm-hmm.
debate about that.
Yep.
But they're wanting to go to different teams, but they're having a struggle with that because these different teams are saying, this is a great player, we want them on our team, but
Right.
what is this going to do for our chemistry?
And that's the
Like,
question.
what are we
That's the
really trying
question.
to accomplish here? Because it's like,
Yeah.
what, how, like, and that's not to say that Rodgers doesn't have any more good years in him left. Say what you want to say. All the fans were, um, complaining last year. Rodgers this, Rodgers that. I think he didn't have that bad of a season last year, considering everything.
Right.
Jeff, our head coach was our defensive coordinator. And no disrespect to Olbrich, but that's just hard to do. You're doing two jobs at once.
Yeah, it's almost impossible, man.
They,
It's almost
like,
impossible,
come on, man. Like,
so
but yeah, like going back to Rodgers real quick, and I'm sorry for like kind of rambling on here, but like, no, yeah, but like, like if Rodgers did go to the Steelers, I would be a little scared because the Steelers, what are they trying to do? They're trying to go back to that Steeler way, right? That's what y'all trying to accomplish, right? Because y'all haven't had that since Big Ben left. So
that's right.
you would kind of not fill the void, but you would kind of have that older kind of leadership role in an Aaron Rodgers. And then, you have TJ Watt on the defense. Now y'all have DK Metcalf. So it's like y'all have pieces. Like you said, y'all are just a quarterback away.
That's the only
And
hole we really
it's
kind of
not
got
on
left to
Coach
fill.
Tomlin.
Right. Right. And look, man, as you said, with coaching and the way coaching works out for there's the head coach, there's the coordinators, there's so many pieces to that branch. And you can't, and you still got to have your players make the best plays.
Yeah, man, it's a whole team effort. And Nathan mentions Darius Big Playz Slay. I mean, shout out Darius Slay. I like that signing for the Steelers actually, because and it was funny because like the report came out so early, but like it wasn't official till like a week later. Like, do you remember? Do you know why that happened? Or like, I don't know. I saw that, but I don't know if there was like a reason for it or.
I think there was still some more paperwork and they had to go through. One of the things I know with Slay being older, I know one of the things that they were concerned about was his making sure that he was healthy. And
yeah. I'm okay. So yeah, so that makes sense. I'm sure he had to go through a lot of like physical tests and stuff.
Right.
That kind of reminds me of like the Lakers Hornets trade that almost went through.
Yeah.
They had to do a lot of physical testing, and that's why it didn't work out. But
and that's got to be kind of weird when it comes to with that situation with Mark Williams going back to Charlotte and connecting those guys going back to LA and then having to walk back in the locker room. It's kind of weird.
And then Dalton Connect just balls out like the next couple games. It's like, yo, it's like
it's almost like they made a bad move, I think.
Yeah.
So talk about Russell Wilson going to the Giants. Which the Giants already picked up Jameis Winston as well.
Yeah.
So, we were talking about this, before we got on air. Obviously, the Giants are not interested in drafting a quarterback in the first round of the draft coming up.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
No.
So what do you expect from? Well, I guess so. Now we got a competition, or is there a competition for the quarterback role for the Giants?
I would believe so, yeah, because I mean, last year we saw Russell at the end of the season. I mean, he didn't really look too hot. So, I mean, I wouldn't even rule out that at all that Winston could beat Russell in camp, because I liked the season that Jameis had last year. The Browns won some good football games, and they beat y'all Steelers.
Yes, they did. In the snow.
So, exactly. That was one of my favorite games of the year, by the way. That was a good game. You got to admit, in the snow.
So look, man. To be honest with you, I hated it because we lost, right? But then, like this stuff starts coming out about Jameis and how he was so happy to be in the snow, and I'll tell you what, man. I'm 45 minutes from New Orleans, so
Uh,
I've seen a lot of really. I've gotten really close, got a lot of information about when Jameis was here as a
yeah.
Saints
Mhm.
quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't not love this guy.
Nah,
There's no
everybody
way to
shout
not
out
love this
Jameis,
guy.
yo.
Dude, I was telling somebody the other day, man, like he won the Super Bowl
Mhm.
this summer or this past year, or
Yeah,
the Super Bowl just occurred, man. He had it. He was like creating content. He was out on the streets, and you
yeah.
love
He's
this guy.
even creating content as we speak right now. He's at the NFL PA Classic playing some golf. Like I saw him with Sauce, yo. I was like, yo, this guy's just everywhere. Like
And
shout out Jameis.
as he should be, man.
Yeah,
This
he's a
dude is
national treasure.
yeah, he really is, and it's
Yeah,
really cool to see him kind of getting into this role and becoming this like figure that's above like playing as a player, things like that.
yeah,
So I'm super excited for what he's doing, but for him to have this chance to be in this quarterback competition, and let's be honest, you said it, man. Russell Wilson, he fizzled out at the end, and there's
yeah.
a lot of reasons we could ask that
Mhm.
because
I
you
believe he
know,
was injured in the playoff game versus Baltimore, correct?
yeah, he
Like
was,
he
and
was
I think
playing hurt.
but the biggest thing was that he played 3 games in 11 days, and to put that in perspective for you, some people don't play 2 games in 7 days.
Yeah.
So for him to play 3 games in 11 days is tiring. I could only imagine what that did to his body.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to recover, things like that. That's tough on anybody. So but especially an older vet who's been in the trenches for a long time. Well over a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to ask of anyone to have to play
Yeah.
that long. But then and not only that, when it was 3 games in 11 days, bro, he's playing 3 NFL championship contenders, and
Yeah.
2 of them played in the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs, the Eagles, having to play the Ravens. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a that's a lot to ask of anyone, but especially a vet like him who's been around for a long time. So but and obviously with the Giants, one thing about Giants is I've noticed this with the schedule making that you come across like the best teams are the ones that go across the pond to play in
Yeah.
Europe, and they get those out of country games and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to see what it's going to look like for him now.
Yeah.
But you got Jameis is there and he's full of life. Jameis is just a gunslinger. And
Yeah.
so
And that's why people say that him and Malik Neighbors might break fantasy here this year. Like, can we see like Malik Neighbors going like top 3 in fantasy? Like that'd be crazy at draft.
Well, I definitely can now. I definitely can now because you got 2 playmakers at quarterback, and I don't know if they're going to draft anybody.
They can't.
In the first round.
I don't. I don't. I just feel like they physically, not that they physically can't draft them, because obviously,
right.
They could, but like,
sure.
Sure. But it's like, you're telling me you're going to make your 3rd overall pick the 3rd string?
Yeah, no.
That makes 0 sense. Like, sure, sit him. Yeah, sure. If you want to sit him, sit him. Like, we saw Jordan Love sit and find success. We saw Pat Mahomes sit and find success. I'm not saying don't shit. I'm not saying don't sit Shador here. I'm saying if you were going to sit Shador, just have 1 veteran.
Right.
Like,
you don't need to.
You would give 4 quarterbacks new contracts in the same year.
Yeah. And worst of all, you got to think that the Giants are sitting. They're going to be looking up there in the basement of the NFC East. So it's not like you're in win now mode. Like
there are a bunch of holes on this team. Yeah.
And so you go and you fill those holes with that first round pick, and then and so I would presume they're going to probably go with either a running back or they're going to go with probably an offensive lineman is what they need, or a pass rusher. I think.
I would say
for them. Because I think those are the biggest holes they got.
Yeah, no, definitely losing Saquon. You're right. But like I would definitely consider the Giants the front runners. Not even the front runners, but I would expect Travis Hunter to end up on the Giants maybe. Now, I have Travis Hunter going to pick 2 to the Cleveland Browns, but I mean this draft is just going to be so interesting because there's still there's still like considerable QBs out there. Like
That's
you
right.
still have Kirk Cousins in the air, kind of, because he's going to
Well,
be the backup to Atlanta. But does somebody trade for Kirk Cousins? Because somebody,
easily you can
and
trade for him.
that's what I'm saying. So, and we saw the false reports of Dak today, and the first thing I said was, why would they trade for a Dak? Forget the no trade calls, everything, throw that out the window, right? What I'm
Right.
talking about right now is, why would the Browns do that for a Dak Prescott when they could just get a Kirk Cousins for cheaper, for less assets?
Man, you
It
could
wouldn't,
probably get. You could probably slide a 7th or a 6th round for Kirk Cousins, and I'm
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
especially if you promise
yeah.
to take his contract. Why would Atlanta not
And yeah,
buy
exactly.
him?
And the Browns, they just restructured Watson. So they're trying to get out of that cap,
That's right.
kind
That's
of
right.
hole here. So it's like, why? That's why I say it's
So
always important to just wait and to
yep.
just see and just
Yeah.
observe. And
So
and Nathan
speaking
says,
of the
in his opinion, the best player for the Giants at this point, this is the best player available for the Giants at this point. Yeah, no, I agree.
yeah, and to your point, then that would definitely, if the Browns went quarterback, and they would, then Travis Hunter's got to be on their list
Yeah,
because they need help defensively as well as needing help. It would be great for them to have another playmaker at wide receiver to go
yeah,
opposite of Malik Neighbors and take some of the
mhm,
pressure off of him. But the interesting thing about the Giants is they got some really great pieces. They got
they
a
definitely
Tyrone
do.
Tracy. That
Yeah,
kid, he was a wide receiver in college, and he is
mm,
they moved him to running back, I think like his junior year or something like that, and he's
yeah, no,
got some great playmaking ability. So
yeah, no.
I think it will be interesting to see what a playmaker at the quarterback position and some upgrades in the offensive line could do for them. Same thing defensively. And so a guy like Travis will be perfect for the Giants. He
Yeah,
can
no,
toss.
and I think the only reason why the Browns would maybe pass on Travis Hunter is because they already have a guy like Denzel Ward. Like, let's
That's
not
right.
forget, Denzel Ward
Right.
is one of the best corners in the league.
In the
Like,
league, without a
in
question.
the league,
Trust me,
in the
I've
league,
seen him.
he's one of the
I
best
see him
corners.
twice a year, and I live in fear.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm surprised you didn't mention him, but maybe
Yeah,
that's why,
yeah.
because he be locking y'all up. But
Listen, you don't say the name Baba Yaga too many times. He'll come looking for you.
yeah, 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 yeah.
No, it's not. No, Denzel Ward is an animal. And so
Nah, he is,
that's one
man.
of the things that kind of interests me about the Browns. And let's talk about them a little bit. I definitely don't mention them too much on this podcast, but they made some interesting moves this offseason.
Yeah.
One that was a great laugh for me and all my Steelers friends was them picking up Kenny Pickett.
Mhm.
Um, so obviously they're in the quarterback market also, and
Yeah.
whatever happened, the Monstars that took Deshaun Watson's talent, they will not be returning his talent to him anytime soon. He won't be touching
Yeah.
that ball. So
Yeah, no.
obviously they're going to need a quarterback, but
Yeah, it's a shame too, yeah.
they've got pieces as well. Now I don't think they're going to bring back Nick Chubb. I think they're done
Mm.
on that front with him.
Yeah, which is sad, man, because I love me some Nick Chubb, yo. Like, Nick Chubb is a good football player, yo. Like,
He's as Mike Tomlin says, Mr. Chubb is my man. He only calls a couple people Mister, and
yeah,
it's Chubb. Right now, it's Chubb and Jackson. Those two are
yeah,
special, but so they're rebuilding their team. They're caught clearly in full rebuild mode. But they were kind of smart to move on from Chubb, and it's probably fair for Chubb for him to get a fresh look on a contender.
yeah,
So that's fair for him, but there's some really good running backs in this draft also.
for sure. It's a deep class.
So very excited to see what they do there. What interests me the most though is you're talking. Speaking of Chubb gets his chance. He's gonna get his chance with a contender. Myles Garrett said he wanted to go to a contender, and then he signed an extension to become the highest paid defender in the league. I'm still kind of baffled a little bit about what did you see? What did you think? Well, have you heard anything? Tell me a little bit about this Myles Garrett story from what you know. He said he requested to trade. He writes this super awesome goodbye letter and wanting to reach a contender. And obviously there was some dysfunction with the front office and he disagreed with it. But then they offered him a lot of money, and
Yeah.
he was good to
Yeah,
go.
no, a lot of money is not really the words because I wanted to make sure I got the number correctly because it's a mega, like it's a big deal. It's a 4-year, $160 million contract extension
That's
with
massive. That's
123
massive.
of it guaranteed, which is nuts. But
Yeah.
that's, and the player that deserves that is a Miles Garrett. But
Yeah,
it,
absolutely.
like you said, it was, yeah, exactly. But it was, it was surprising to see because, like you said before, we saw the posting on Instagram that he had, he had a heartfelt letter to the Browns, and then, I believe it was like 3 weeks later ish, he signs this crazy extension, and it's like, hmm, now what are the Browns gonna do with the number 2 pick? Because everyone
Right.
had Abdul Carter going to them, but
Yeah, that's right.
now it's like, it's very interesting. This whole draft is just going to be very, very interesting because you don't know what any of these teams are going to do, really.
It's been a long time since we've seen this kind of uncertainty this close, because the
Yeah,
draft is what, like in a week and a
in a
half or
month,
something.
about a month. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm
yeah,
thinking
like
Central
28
Time.
days. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
but
good.
normally with this much amount of time, we can almost guarantee, and that seems to be the consensus, that the Titans will go with Cam Ward as their number 1 pick. Which, talk about his rocket ride to the top. Coming from well, he was at Washington State, and then he has the 1 year at Miami, and he is just, when the season started, I remember having arguments on about NCAA football, and we started talking about the different the number 1 quarterback and who was the best quarterback on the game. And I think nobody mentioned Cam Ward in the middle of all of this. And the irony is that obviously it was kind of a consensus idea that Shador was the number 1 guy as far as top quarterback.
Yeah, man. Like people forget. Like I mentioned this on my last episode of Inside the Locker Room podcast. Like people forget that this is like a year-long process, and even longer than that because people are already anticipating Arch Manning next year. So it's like
Yeah,
people think about. Excuse me, I was a little far away from my mic, but
that's all right.
people forget that like this is a very long like coaches even think about this years into the future. That's why scouting starts in high school, like, and even
Yeah.
younger sometimes. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's cool to definitely see that, but like going back to the draft here, like we said, like anything can happen. Like we don't know, and like going back to the Browns a little bit here, like they hold the number 2 pick in the draft, but they had it at Kenny Pickett. You're not really going to go into the season with him as the starter.
Number 1
So like I
guy.
said, do they trade for Kirk Cousins? Obviously, they would keep the number 2 pick by trading for Kirk Cousins. But do they find another quarterback like that? And or like could you do the Titans pass on Cam Ward? I don't think they do. I think it's a lock. So now do we see Shador get drafted by the Browns? I don't really believe so, to be honest, because what have the Browns done in the past? They haven't really invested too much in at the quarterback position, other than, that free agency contract they had in Winston. Oh, excuse me, Watson. But like it's definitely just gonna be interesting because the Browns worked out Cam Ward themselves. So what if the Browns trade from 2 to 1 and they draft Cam Ward? Because
Wow.
let's not forget also, there was a clip of Cam Ward shouting out Cleveland. There
You
was a
are
clip.
absolutely correct. I
There
almost
was a
forgot
clip
about
of
you.
he was talking about
Absolutely
Cleveland. Like, let's not.
correct.
Hey, so I feel like
But
that's a possibility as well.
there's so much in the air. And one of the things that I think about, so what's burned in my brain is that Will Levis came out of the gate when he was starting, not last season, but the season before last.
Yeah.
He came out on fire. Like, I want to say his first start, his debut start, was like he threw for 400 yards against what, Atlanta or something.
I remember it was, and I believe he like came into later the season, like he never started in the
Yeah,
beginning, like they
it
sat him
was
at
late.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
they
was
sat
late.
him at first, and then bro just came out of nowhere towards the end of the season, and bro was cooking, and I was like, okay, mayonnaise guy, okay, but then the next year,
He was
but then
completely.
yeah, I
It,
don't, yeah, no.
it
When I
was
saw this
again.
commercial, I was, what were you about to
That
say?
was really, really shocking. But I was gonna say, Levis was again another one of the players where the Monstars just came and snatched away. Like everything good that he had done
Yeah.
in the season,
Yeah.
just all went away. And so every week it was a new meme of how he was, embarrassing himself and
Yeah.
embarrassing. It was crazy to see, and the whole time. But there was so I talk a lot of sports with my fantasy group. And shout out to the Irish fantasy team. They hopefully they won't go up on the fantasy league dues this year. But so we were talking sports, and everyone was just like, "Nah, Levis ain't it." Like by the end of the season, they immediately were like, "Levis is not it." I was like, "Well, I thought he had a pretty solid season, and you give him a chance, and he's another guy that if everyone's consensus is that the Titans are going to take Cam Ward, then there's another player that I feel like could make a big jump and actually be really good. I think Sam Darnold made it clear this past season that you can't just bail on any player, especially at quarterback position anymore. Because I had written off Sam Darnold for years that he was going to be a terrible quarterback, and when the Vikings announced him as a starter, I was like, oh, well, it's just going to be a matter of time before J.J. McCarthy. McCarthy looked good in the preseason, then he got hurt. And so then it was like, oh, the Vikings aren't going to be any good. And then it won 14 games. So, I feel like Levis is going to have kind of that same arc where, he's going to find his best offensive coordinator and become special. I felt like there was enough good from that I've seen from him, even though there's a lot of backs, that there was a chance that he could get in and be special or be a player for an offense. And I wasn't rooting for the Steelers to go after Will Levis, but I wouldn't be sad. I mean, like with the right offensive coordinator, there anything can happen.
Yeah.
But speaking of Sam Darnold, man, because this offseason has been crazy. Just seeing the different moves, quarterback swapping and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about what Sam Darnold is going to be able to do in Seattle.
So, I mean, speaking about Sam Darnold here, I mean, shout out Sam. I'm not gonna lie, Sam was probably the quarterback I rode the hardest for recently.
Wow.
Like as a Jets fan, because I mean, speaking of which, I promise this is the last jersey prop. Okay, I promise. The last one. But But anyways, because I mean, all my other jerseys anyways are like MLB. But anyways, But bro, shout out Sam Darnold because I watched him at his first rookie home start against the Dolphins.
Wow. Okay.
And we lost that game. But because the week before we spanked the Lions. I don't know if you remember, Darnold's first ever start, we spanked the Lions. And it was like, okay, new era Jets. Finally. They reeled me back in. And then what do? But going back to Sam Darnold here, bro. Like, I love Sam Darnold. He's a great kid. Like, you gotta love him. But like, I'm just so happy. Like, he just got another shot, on the Vikings, and they did win 14 games. Like, we can't discredit that. And now the big question is, if he can keep this up on the Seahawks. But we saw this with Geno. It just all ties to the Jets. It just all ties to the Jets. So, and shout out Geno too, because that was like the first Jets quarterback other than Sanchez that I was really exposed to.
Right.
But Geno's a great guy as well. I still root for these guys to this day. I'm still gonna root for Rodgers. I'm still gonna root for for Darnold.
So I'll tell you something interesting. I'm thinking about about Geno going to
the Raiders.
Yeah, I think that's going to be.
I like that signing.
Because I think for that top 5 draft, those draft teams in the top 5. I believe everyone. It seems to me as if everyone is going to go Cam Ward first, and then Shedeur second, and maybe that might switch. I'm not. I wouldn't be shocked if it switched.
I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, no, I'm very high on Shedeur Sanders personally. I mean, I'm sure you've seen my content on him, but but I mean, Yeah, nah, but just like you said, it's just going to be interesting because, like you said, the Raiders, they just signed Geno Smith. They have the sixth
Right.
pick in the draft right before the Jets. I have them taking Ashton Genty at pick 6.
Right. And
And
that's
yeah,
another playmaker that the draft is going to be crazy. The off season has already been crazy. This has been one of the most fun off seasons in the NFL that I think I can
yes.
remember in
And
some
and
time.
and exactly. And that's why I'm so happy that I like started this season, this off season, because, it's just been so much fun so far.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So talk a little bit about speaking of this draft, because there's so much talent from
Yes.
the wide receiving group is really deep, the
Hmm.
quarterback group, and that's the thing, and that's what I keep reminding my Steelers friends, like, hey, from a fan perspective, like, let's calm down. There's some playmakers from
Yeah.
like, not gonna lie to you, man. I don't, I'm not, I wouldn't be upset, but I also wouldn't just be like, hey, we got to go get a Zach Wilson or a Will Levis. But
Mm.
again, Sam Darnold was written off everywhere. Baker
Yeah.
Mayfield written off everywhere. Like people were
Yeah.
saying, oh, these guys. If I'm not mistaken, these guys were traded or signed for little or nothing.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it just takes someone believing in you, especially your offensive coordinator believing in you and giving you the opportunity to set you up and make big show, big plays
Yeah.
for you, which is ironic. Your Instagram is NFL Playmakers, and
Yeah.
so that's why I call this show, Big Players Make Big Plays. And there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
lot of big players that are in this draft from the Ashton Jonties, which is the main name, but then you look at like a Caleb Wilson.
Caleb,
I'm
yeah,
sorry, Caleb
Caleb
Johnson.
Johnson, yeah, from Iowa,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Cannot
that
sleep on
kid.
Caleb Johnson. That guy's an animal.
Well, but then there's the two running backs from Ohio State that are going to be really
Yeah.
special. Of
Mario
course, Ohio
Hampton.
State has there's a lot of playmakers in this draft this offseason. So they're going to fill a
Mm.
lot of holes and make teams better. It's going to be a lot of fun offensively for next season, next football season. Um, but who are some of your sleepers at any
Yeah.
of the positions? People that you feel like are going to really shock some of us when we reach the fall.
Yeah, okay. So I have kind of two players that come first to mind here, and one of them is
Okay.
not really as much of a sleeper as another one because the second player that I'll mention is, more in the deeper rounds here. But
Okay.
the first player I'm going to mention here, most people have him going towards the end of the first or at the very top of the second, but he could very much well be a good enough wide receiver, as good enough wide receiver as Travis Hunter in this league. And
Mm.
do not sleep on Ibuka.
Yes.
He just ran
Yes.
a 4.4 or a 4.39. I don't know if
Yeah.
one of the two, but that's either way. That's fast as hell,
Fast.
man. Like
Fast.
fast. And speaking about 40-yard dashes, I mean, what do you think about the Steelers picking up Jalen Milrow?
I would be so excited for that.
I
So
love that
excited for that.
pick. I love
And,
that. I love Jalen Milrow, man.
and that's another thing, just from a fan perspective. There's so many young players that would get the opportunity to step in and make some plays. Have
Immediately, even.
opportunities. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's some that are already in the NFL. There are some that are in college that are about to be drafted.
Yeah.
And look, the fun part of the draft is we go after this. There's 256 guys whose lives are going to be changed, but
Mhm.
there's even more guys who will come in through free agency and
Mhm.
you know
And,
and
yeah, people that go
have
undrafted and all that. Yeah,
yeah
of course.
have a
Yeah.
chance to make a
Look, I
team.
believe, yeah, I believe Xavier Gibson was undrafted and he scored the game-winning touchdown for us during that game that Rodgers went down. So,
Exactly.
like players like that can give you special plays and special memories. And, going back to my name, NFL Playmakers, which I'm probably gonna have to change soon because of copyright. But going to that going to that name, that's what the game is all about to me. It's about the players, the playmakers, because without the playmakers, like
Yeah,
what
we got
game is
nothing.
there? Because
We got
it's
nothing.
all it's all it's all about the memorable moments. You got the Beast Quake, shout out Adam. You got the Butler interception at the 1 yard line. Like it's
Oh,
just there's just so many moments exactly, and those moments wouldn't be there without those playmakers.
without those playmakers, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Well, we're sitting here with Benji Rodriguez of NFL Playmakers. definitely y'all go follow him on Instagram.
Thank you for having me on, bro.
Tell us where else we can find your content and your work at.
All right, man. So I mean, so yeah, I'm currently waiting on my application for Kane University. So I'm hoping to get into school soon. So shout out Jersey. So yeah, on the way, big things are happening. You can see my YouTube channel. It's called B-Rod Media, which is probably what I'm going to change my Instagram to shortly after. But first, I'll be flying to the NFL draft next month. I bought my plane ticket today. So I'm super excited about that. So the Inside the Locker Room podcast will be at the NFL draft, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
I'm a man, but we're doing it.
Yes, sir.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a draft party streaming from home, and then we're gonna have people live on the ground there. Maybe not live per se, but we'll have people covering it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you'll get the content to them, and so that's most important, man. Well,
I can't wait for all the reactions as well. That's just gonna be amazing, because that's the funnest part about this whole thing. Just seeing everybody's reaction, seeing where these players end up, because that's the thing. These playmakers could develop depending on what team they're on, you know. Sometimes a guy isn't like, you know, a fit on a certain team, you know, and I'll close it out like this. But, you know, you just never know. You just never know what player is going to work where, you know.
Right.
So that's why this draft is so interesting, because we're going to be, you know, basically guessing how good, you know, these players might end up, but it's never a test to that, because look at players like Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't start on the same team they were drafted on, and look at them now. And I'll close out the episode like that. So shout out Geno Smith and shout out Sam Darnold, baby.
Well, definitely. And shout out to the new era Jets, baby. So
that too, yes, sir.
For those of you who are looking and following, definitely give this man a shout and check out the Inside the Locker Room podcast. And we look forward to have more of the Inside the Locker Room podcast join us, and maybe doing a full joint podcast. I'm looking forward to a lot of great.
Man, definitely want to have you on sometime, man. Today was a bunch of fun.
Yeah, and we look forward to much more of it, man. So as we go, as I always say, you know, tough times don't last, tough people do, man. Thank y'all for watching the Fanatic Sports Podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Nathan, for tuning in.
Thank
shout out
so
those
much.
guys.
Yeah, definitely excited. We'll appreciate having y'all again.